Shout out to the beautiful people. Trina, hey girl, hey. The Twabble of the JB. Uncle Nathaniel, peace for greeting. What's up? Shayla, hey girl, hey. It's not working at all. What's this? Oh, maybe I just need the mouse pad. Okay, it worked. All right, beautiful people. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday, everybody. It is June the 17th, 2021, day 183 of year 3 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, another 3-year consecutive day count, day 852. That is not the Sabbath days or the feast day Sabbath days added into the count. Why? Because we rest, right? Yahuwah said, take one day out the week and rest yourself. You got 6 days for work. Get everything you need to get done on those days and chill out and put that body to rest for an entire day. Place over here. Today, y'all, we reading the editions of Esther from the Apocrypha, chapters 10, 11, and 12. And I think it's 16 chapters. No, I'm sorry, it's 15. Why I keep thinking 16? Oh, so the last day we'll actually be reading this will be Saturday, because we're not here tomorrow. We rest because it's the Sabbath. The moon cycle, remember, the moon cycle for this month falls on the Sabbath. Falls on this Friday. Okay, I'm sorry, I was reading my text that was coming through. Okay, y'all, so our last day reading the editions of Esther will be Saturday. And then we go right into, what's after Ezra in the regular Bible? Whatever's after Ezra in the regular order of the Bible, that's what we read next. I forgot. Don't have me guessing because I know I'm going to guess wrong. I'll tell y'all tomorrow. Or I'll just look it up real quick. Hold on. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the Shema. All right, y'all. So y'all know the Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6. That's why I'm using this mouse pad. I said I had my stuff ready. But then something go off. Oh, okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so I got stuff saved under my favorites and everything, and then when it don't pop up. Okay, Shema, Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting in verse 3. Remember, read the entire chapter. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as YAHUAH, the Elohim of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, and get your attention, please. Hear, O Israel, YAHUAH, our mighty one, he is one. He's only one. There is only him, right? And you shall love YAHUAH, your Elohim, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children. And you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And YAHUAH commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear YAHUAH, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive, as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before YAHUAH, our mighty one, as he has commanded us. Okay, y'all. Let's hop on over here. Set. Esther. It's like heavy. Alright, y'all. Chapter 10. So remember we left off. Haman is about to get hung. Chapter 10. Additions to Esther in Apocrypha. On that night, could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the Sefer of records of the Chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthan and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on King Xerxes. And the king said, "What honor and dignity has been done to Mordecai for this?" Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, "There is nothing done for him." And the king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, "Behold, Haman stands in the court." And the king said, "Let him come in." So Haman came in. And the king said unto him, "What shall be done unto the man whom the king delights to honor?" Now Haman thought in his heart, "To whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself?" And Haman answered the king, "For the man whom the king delights to honor, let the royal apparel be bought which the king uses to wear, and the horse that the king rides upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal whom the king delights to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor." Then the king said to Haman, "Make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as you have said, and do even unto Mordecai the Hebrew, that sits at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that you have spoken." Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, "Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delights to honor." And Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hastened to his house mourning, and having his head covered. And Haman told Zeresh his woman, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his woman unto him, "If Mordecai be the seed of the Hebrews before whom you have begun to fall, you should not prevail against him, but shall surely fall before him." And while they were yet talking with him, the king's chamberlains came the king's chamberlains, and hastened to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. Chapter 11. So the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, "What is your petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted to you. And what is your request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom." Then Esther the queen answered and said, "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage." Then the king Xerxes answered and said unto Esther the queen, "Who is he, and where is he, that dared presume in his heart to do so?" And Esther said, "The adversary and the enemy is this wicked Haman." Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw there was evil determined against him by the king. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the bed whereupon Esther was. Then said the king, "Will he force the queen also before me in the house?" As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. And Carbona and one of the chamberlains said before the king, "Behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king, stands in the house of Haman." Then the king said, "Hang him thereon." So they hung Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. Next chapter for the day, chapter 12. Additions to Esther found in the book of the Apocrypha. Shalom, Auntie. On that day did the king Xerxes give at the house of Haman, the Hebrews' enemy, unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. And Esther spoke yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Hebrews. Then the king held out his golden scepter towards Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king, and said, If it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eye, let it be written to reverse the Sepharim devised by Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Hebrews which are in the king's provinces. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Xerxes said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Hebrew, Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hung upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Hebrews. Write ye also for the Hebrews, as it likens unto you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name, and sealed with the king's ring, may no man reverse. Then were the king's scribes called at the time in the 3rd month, that is, the month of Sivan, on the 23 day thereof, and it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded unto the Hebrews, and to the lieutenants, and the deputies, and the rulers of the provinces, which are from India unto Cush, 127 provinces, unto every province according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language, and to the Hebrews according to their writing, and according to their language. And he wrote in the king Xerxes' name, and sealed it with the king's ring, and sent seraphim by posts on horseback, and on riders of mules, camels, and young dromedaries, wherein the king granted the Hebrews which were in every city to gather themselves together, and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and the province that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for prey upon one day in all the provinces of King Xerxes, namely upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Imagine if somebody did that today. I ain't saying that's what should be done, but just imagine. Which is probably why all the different governments and all the different rules and all this stuff have been set up the way it has. I'm just saying. I'm going to leave it at that. Let's hop on over here. So Legends of the Jews. I'm about to say Legends of the Jews. To Fossilized Customs, where we left off at yesterday on page 144. Okay, y'all. Anybody go back and read some more of the Abomination of Desolation, the chapters that I gave y'all? Y'all should have read like all of Daniel the rest of the way through, from like I would say from chapter 7 all the way to the end of Daniel. Y'all should have went back and read. Not saying that you had to, but I'm just saying if you did. Because I know I kind of skipped through chapter 10 and 9 and 10 to sum up the pieces so you can see how it was in Maccabees. All right. So we are going to pick up where we left off at yesterday. And actually we left off, oh no, I didn't read that part of the sentence. Okay. So we left off with the sentence, because Yahushua warned us beforehand that when we saw the army surrounding the city to flee to the mountains, the Nazarene were shunned because they did not stay and fight. Without the temple and the ceremonial sacrificial system, rabbinical Yehudism developed among the dispersed Yahudim, or the Hebrews. Shaitan or Satan pursued the woman, and in parentheses it has Yahuwah's bride / wife, Then the dragon was enraged at the woman and went off to make war against the rest of her offspring, those who obey Yahuwah's commandments and hold to the testimony of Yahushua. Okay, so now that we have read that, right, those that are dispersed would have been those who fled, right? Remember when they came and they ransacked Jerusalem? That's what it was giving details of in Maccabees and what Daniel had saw. So as that was happening, the ones who were left, the ones who were actually keeping the commands, were the ones who fled, right? The woman who fled into the wilderness. Yahuwah said, y'all better get out of there, because it ain't enough y'all doing what's right that's going to save the place. Everybody else going into captivity, right? So those that hear Yahuwah ahead of time, a lot of times they're kept safe, and so they began to spread. They said they fled to the mountains and different places. If you missed it, you fell asleep yesterday, go back and read it. You will see that was the beginning of the prophecy beginning to happen, right? And all of us that are dispersed now throughout the four corners of the earth, we are the woman who fled into the wilderness, right? So as you read that, you'll kind of get a better understanding of what this is saying. And then when you read Revelations and some of this stuff where it's taking it out of context, you won't be so quick to agree with some of the theories that have been taught throughout church history, at least in the last 2,000 years, of only which I've been alive like the last 42. But my last 42 years, what I've heard is completely off from what actually is happening and how far down the timeline of prophecy we actually are, if you actually listen to people who try and teach you this, right? Okay. And right here he has, what is the testimony of Yahushua? He has, it is, repent, for the reign of Yahuwah draws near. Prophecy is also the testimony of Yahuwah. It says Yahushua here as he speaks through us. See, I crossed out the last part of this sentence. It says, we are engaged in a war and wear the Torah as our armor, which is true. But then it said, right here, it said, Yahushua is the living word, so we are clothed in him. We are the meat. It's, like I said, as we begin to understand Yahuwah opens our eyes more and more to the truth, we'll see that some of the stuff, it no longer applies. And even his doctrine needs to be adjusted quite a bit, right? So it's Yahuwah, his word, that lives in us, right? Our sword is the word of Yahuwah, his Torah. The true elders who serve our... Okay, I'm going to read this. The true elders who serve our rabbi do not plunder the flock, but serve and feed the flock. I would say those elders who truly serve Yah, right? Who really serve Yah, do not plunder the flock, but serve and feed the flock. You can recognize us by our fruits, whether or not we keep and teach others the commandments. Read all of 1 John carefully. We also carry the true message. Okay. I'll read this, but sometimes when you hear this, it still keep you in that mindset of the cross and stuff. It says, we have been saved by grace, the unmerited loving kindness, the gift of the Spirit of Yah, who has written his Torah on our hearts and minds. Now, having the ability to love the commandments, we do not sin against them. We are led by the Spirit, and has in parentheses the spiritual seed, not the flesh, or in the parentheses behind that it has Hagar, or the mind of the flesh. The commandments are spiritual, but the mind of the flesh wars against them. How do we show our love for Yahuwah? We obey his Torah teachings, his covenant of love. We are the wise virgins who await our bridegroom, having the oil, in parentheses beside oil, it has Torah. Having the oil, Torah, that lights our way. If you have been raised in or converted to Christianity, you should by now be starting to see the rotten decay that paganism has brought into the barrel of apples long ago. The Torah, and in parentheses it has teachings. The Torah teachings is the rock that the wise man will build his house on. You need no other rabbi or approval of any man to convert to you. It says to the religion of Yah, but let's see. I'll say to turn to Yah, right? Let's see. To turn to Yah. You need no other rabbi or approval of any man to turn to Yah. We do not beg for money, but work ourselves. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. The wisdom of Torah is more precious than gold or rubies. It must not be sold. The renewed covenant makes you an heir of the promise, and you will be included at the wedding supper of the bridegroom, not locked outside. It doesn't matter how much you pay your pastor to spread the message of the reign. You must do it yourself. His name in the covenant is the buried treasure. So apply your whole heart and mind to remain steadfast. You can trust your husband to be faithful, and he will say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." If he gives you a 5 piece of silver, and in parentheses, the silver represents wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, you will return to him 5 additional pieces at his return. And in parentheses, it has, you have invested and helped others. So it's talking about the talent of the parables, if y'all remember that. So he's referring to that. There was one that got 5, there was one that got 3, and there was one that got 1. He said if he gives you 5 pieces of silver, I think I said a 5 piece. If he gives you 5 pieces of silver, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, you will return to him 5 additional pieces at his return, meaning you have invested and helped others convert. You will be greatly rewarded. Your money cannot help. People who misunderstand the parables or are tricked by their pastors not only are blocked from the covenant, but they are also plundered. The reason so many men can peddle the word of YAHUAH for profit is because the message is veiled. The harvest is great, but there are billions alive right now who need to hear the true message of the reign of YAHUAH. The harvest of the earth is coming very soon, probably within the generation, and it has in parentheses 70 years. All right, another two. The harvest of the earth is coming very soon, probably within the generation. Like I said, it has 70 years of the regathering to Israel. And in parentheses right here, it has 1948 CE. See, clearly, even right here, when we get right here, we will understand that this was not the real gathering. So all of this information that he's adding, like I said, most of it in here is correct, with the exception still of who the real people are, right? And if you don't know who the real people are, then you get their Savior wrong, right? You get the years wrong, you get the prophecies wrong, right? Because you're looking at the wrong people trying to make sense of the prophecies when they don't make sense. You'll see the flip side, the inverted prophecies, right? But it doesn't line up because we know that Israel hasn't been regathered. Listen to what he said. As he believes. Now let me tell you, his believing, if you look at it based on what we know and what they think they know, what he said is kind of correct. I wouldn't necessarily put 70 years on it. This is what I'm talking about. He said the harvest of the earth is coming very soon, probably within the generation, 70 years of the regathering to Israel, right? We know that none of these other big old prophecies can happen or come to pass until Israel is regathered, and we are still scattered. He thinks in his mind, according to all the false propaganda and all the misinformation they have put out and the switching around of people, that Israel has already been regathered, right? So that's why they're thinking, oh, this is going to happen now. This is going to happen now. Their theory, in theory, if they had the truth on, if they actually pinpointed the people, then they would be correct. But since they haven't pinpointed the people and they don't know who they are, their timeline is completely off, right? Because this stuff doesn't happen until after they have been regathered. And seeing that they have been fooled, that Israel has been regathered, and he has even in parentheses, 1948 CE, remember? Oh, the created state of Israel, they started to bring the first Jews back to the homeland by planes and different modes of transportation, right? Like they're doing it. It looks like they're doing it correctly according to scripture until you realize that those are not really the blood-born identified people, right? So they play, it's a whole movie playing before your face, y'all. Shalom, mom, shalom. And when you realize that, it'll cause you to step back and be like, wait a minute. what is really going on here, right? So once you begin to see that, it's easy to see all the leaven and other added leaven stuff, right? It doesn't matter which string you pull on this sweater, it's gonna start unraveling things. It may start unraveling it at a different point from what it would over here. And you may start out seeing something different than somebody else begins to see when they start unraveling. You may start unraveling it at different points, but eventually you're going to get to the point where you're going to realize, wait a minute, hold on, you all are going to come to the same consensus no matter where you start at in the truth as you begin to uncover, because as you uncover who the people are, there are other things that they have to be addressed, right? What's up, son? Yeah, I started at 7:15. No, you tripping. And so based on what he said, in theory, what he said is correct. But because he still believes that the European converts is Israel, his prophecy is off by, I don't know what it's off by, but it's off. He's seeing the opposite side of the truth, which is a lie. I hope that makes sense. I ain't gonna. But y'all get what I'm saying, right? Yes, Jeremiah is fruit. I told them to eat it. It's not. No, they didn't. They ate half of them. I seen it. Or whatever you seen there is probably what they knocked on the floor. Yeah. Boy, eat the fruit. Eat the fruit.
I was all happy to eat strawberries tomorrow.
Jeremiah.
Today in the morning. But no, I come back to seven strawberries when there was like 50 of them in the fridge. These niggas hungry, act like they hungry so bad, like they some
Jeremiah.
These niggas got food every day.
It's fruit. I tell them to eat it up. It perishes. Y'all, he do the most. See,
yes, I do, because I can't have nothing in this house when it comes to food, yo. I'm mad.
Since he has changed to a plant-based diet, he's doing all fruits. Now, because the kids, they eat up the fruit. Now, and I filled up the refrigerator with all kinds of fruits and stuff. And I was like, eat it up, because y'all know food is perishable. So I'm like, go ahead, eat it. I don't care. I'd rather them eat fruit all day and just go in and out the refrigerator eating fruit, especially because it's summertime. I'd rather them be eating that than be eating junk, right? So he put in a few requests for different fruits. And so he just took too long to get down here. So the fruit is here, Jeremiah. Come on and get it. Because the kids going to eat it up.
It was past my cycle to eat, so I couldn't eat.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was past his cycle to eat because he's not eating after 6. Yes, baby. No, I didn't prank you, sis. What is that? You don't know. Look at it. What is that? It's a kiwi, Sootie. All right, look, y'all interrupted me. Okay, look. Okay, let's see. All right, the oneness of marriage. The message or the gospel of the reign of YAHUAH is linked to the idea of a marriage covenant and begins with YAHUAH's call. If we agree to his covenant, and he has the 10 commandments in parentheses, then we love him and obey him as a husband is to be obeyed. He loves, provides for, and protects us as a wife. The immersion into the waters, called baptism now, removes our uncleanness, and we are then enabled to become one with our Maker. He only seeks the love of a faithful bride, and he is not bashful about telling us he is jealous. He also calls us out from ancient paganism, which pollutes his bride. This is why the prophet Hosea was told to make a prostitute his bride, to illustrate how we make YAHUAH feel. Shalom, Nikki. At our resurrection, he will inhabit us fully. Yes, Nikki. Yes. Okay, yep. She got the same name as they do. Yep. It is most important that we be immersed in his name and then sealed in his name with the laying on of hands. A faithful wife is an obedient wife who obeys out of love. It is a covenant of love. Satan or Satan hates and attacks marriages. Okay, the next section is paganism exposed.
Last thing. I think that with that saying, people, some take it a little too to heart because it sounds like, oh, like they make it sound like there are, and some guys too, some guys, some girls, they interpret that the way wrong way. Actually, we're both kind of same message. We are none of the people will have any benefits one or the other, and also the stereotype of men is just muscle.
Thank you, great teacher. That is correct. It is important that we consider the impact that Constantine had on our accepted customs because he filtered out the Hebrew roots of faith. The habits of the Western pagan Gentiles like Sunday, Easter, Saturnalia, Samhain, towers, and many familiar symbols were carried along and blended into the Nazarene faith as a matter of state policy. Hold on. Let me see what they take in this part. Okay. Hold on. Okay, it says right here, Yahushua's death and resurrection occurred at the time of Passover. Clearly, that's what we read in the New Testament, based on what they created and put in there. Since the Gentiles of the Western localities were in the habit of their Earth Mother fertilization festival, fertilization festival, Easter, they continued to keep it in a new perspective when they converted to Christianity. The eggs and rabbits, rolling eggs on the fields, egg hunts, etc., should be more than enough evidence to show this. The early Nazarene, who were less inclined to enculturate the paganism, were disturbed as they witnessed the Gentiles' changes. Since they continued to observe the Passover, it meant even more to them than ever before. Yahushua had revealed the mystery that Passover had foreshadowed. No. I know what they say, but that's not true, right? I know what they teach, and if you still don't understand, you would think that's true until you actually go and you read what Yahuwah says, right? So that's what you call I'm not gonna say that's necessarily replacement theology, but it's just lies outright. We know there was a controversy concerning the alterations made by Constantine when he set up Sunday and Easter, replacing the covenant commandments. In Eusebius' Ecclesiastical History, that's I guess that's a book. Eusebius' Ecclesiastical History, there is the record of the following letter written by an elder, Polycrates, I think that's how you say his name, to Victor of the Church of Rome. This was the letter, y'all. We therefore observe the genuine day, neither adding thereto nor taking therefrom. For in Asia great lights have fallen asleep, which shall rise again in the day of the rabbi's appearing, in which he will come with esteem from Shamayim and will raise up all the saints. Philip, one of the 12 apostles, who sleeps in Hierapolis, and his 2 aged virgin daughters, his other daughter also, who having lived under the influence of the Ruach HaKodesh, now likewise rest in Ephesus. Moreover, John, who rested on the bosom of our rabbi, who was also a priest and bore a sacerdotal plate, both a martyr and a teacher, he is buried in Ephesus. Also Polycarp of Smyrna, both elder and martyr of Umina, who is buried at Smyrna. Why should I mention Sagaris, elder and martyr, who rests at Laodicea? Moreover, the blessed Papyrus and Melito, the eunuch, whose walk and conversation was altogether under the influence of the Ruach HaKodesh, who now rests at Sardis, awaiting the episcopate from Shemayim, when he shall rise from the dead. All these observe the 14th day of the Passover according to the word, deviating in no respect, but following the rule of faith. Moreover, I, Polycrates, who am the least of all you, according to the tradition of my relatives, some of whom I have followed. For there were 7, my relatives, elders, and I am the 8th. And my relatives always observed the day when people threw away the leaven. There it is, my friends. And that was the end of the letter. There it is, friends. An elder who saw the changes and wrote to another elder who was being carried away by winds of doctrine. Thank you, son. He mentioned the throwing away of the leaven for the 7 days of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, or matzah, as Paul also mentioned at 1 Corinthians 5:7-10. Paul even said, "Let us therefore celebrate the feast," speaking of matzah. Remember how Paul said he wept and pleaded with the elders for years? Acts chapter 20, knowing that these things would come after he was gone. The assemblies were turning aside to myths. The heretics have distorted the true walk to suit themselves and created a powerful hierarchy which has killed tens of millions and is still in place, causing human catastrophes. The current times of the Gentiles will not be set right by human means, but will be obliterated by our returning Messiah, who is YAHUAH. Like, see this? Okay. I mean, everybody here by now, you should get this, right? Yes, sir. Do you have something to say? Okay. The current times of the Gentiles will not be set right by human hands, but will be obliterated, I would say, by YAHUAH, right? It says, by our returning Mashiach. Who is YAHUAH? Because YAHUAH said he is the Mashiach, or is the Savior, or is the Deliverer, right? And he said, if there is another, I know not one. He said he is the only Deliverer of Israel. Remember, and when there is a human person on the scene who is labeled as the Deliverer, Mommy, is somebody directly sent by YAHUAH.
You take these out one season.
Oh, no, you're not taking those out. So you can put those beside it, but you got to be careful. Hold on. It's somebody YAHUAH has directly set in this realm over the people to lead them and guide them out, right? And it's somebody currently alive in that generation. That's the way it's always been, right? And when he himself comes, according to what it says, when he actually descends and makes his appearance upon the earth, that's not going to happen, he said, until his people are actually back in the land. And at that time he actually comes, it says that would be the time of the Gog-Magog war. Some people call it the apocalypse, or Armageddon, right? But the people got to be back in the land for that to happen. And what you're seeing going on now, the little rigmarole, fighting with the surrounding nations, this is not that. Although they teach you that is this, it is absolutely not. How do we know? Because we've identified who the people are. And we know that the people are not back in their land. They're still scattered, right? So all these things, as you begin to look at it, you got to go back, walk back, foundation. Okay, this can't be true because these are the people. They're not back home yet. And if they're not back home yet, that means that Armageddon can't happen. You can't come surround a nation of people to destroy them again, saying that we should have not let them go, right? We're going to go back and try and take some of these people back. Like, after we get back, that's what Armageddon is. They are going to, once we have been back and we've enjoyed a time of peace, it says they are going to try it again, y'all. That's why there's going to be Armageddon, because YAHUAH said this will never happen to you again, which is going to cause him to come himself that time, right? And the surrounding nations who have come up to surround his people, the city without walls, right? The city without walls, because YAHUAH said when you come back, it'll be so many of you that you will overrun the land, right? And he said, I will be the wall around you. What do we see? You see this small little sliver piece of land, and they got walls every which way. Everything is backwards, y'all. Everything is backwards. If you just pay attention to the details that's right in front of your face, you should start asking questions, right? And if you recognize one thing, you address it, you have to start addressing all the other things that's supposed to line up with it, but really don't, right? Okay. The current times of the Gentiles will not be set right by human hands, but will be obliterated by YAHUAH as a roaring lion from space, as lightning from one end of the sky to the other. You have to be a saint while you are alive if you expect to enter the New Jerusalem in the resurrection. There is no religion in the writings that requires us to meet together on Sunday morning or observe Easter or Christmas to follow leaders who are blind. You will fall into a pit. Many trust their own hearts, saying, I believe in my own way, or I worship the Creator in my own personal way. They do what seems right in their own eyes. You are not to do as we do here today, everyone as he sees fit. Deuteronomy chapter 12 and 8. Following your own heart, you will be deceived. The heart is crooked above all and desperately sick. Who shall know it? Jeremiah 17:9. At Jeremiah 18:12, the prophet wrote that the people said to themselves, it's no use. We will continue with our own plans. Each of us will follow the stubbornness of his evil heart. People find comfort in cliches like, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Is this what YAHUAH taught us to do? And the fire shall prove the work of each one, what sort it is. If anyone's work remains, which he has built on, he shall receive a reward. If anyone's work is burnt, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, but as though through fire. And that's found in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 13 through 15. The prophesied apostasy has happened. Blessed are those doing his commands, so that the authority shall be theirs unto the tree of life, and to enter through the gates into the city. Outside are the dogs, those who practice magic arts, the sexually immoral, the murderers, the idolaters, and everyone who loves and practices falsehood. Revelation 22:14 and 15. It would have been better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than to have known it and then to turn their backs on the set-apart command that was passed on to them. Of them the proverbs are true. A dog returns to its vomit, and a soul that is washed goes back to her wallowing in the mud. 2 Peter 2:21 and 22. Dogs is the term used for Gentiles without any hope. See Matthew 7 and 6 and Matthew 15 and 26. The vomit a dog returns to is his old pagan ways. The Last Supper was at the beginning of the 14th of Aviv and was a memorial meal of Yahushua's day of death, right? So we can, I know they got that, but guys, we should understand by now, right? And we're going to head across this sentence out. We know it's there, and they put it there to further the story of what they're trying to, the Jedi mind tricks that they're trying to play on you to keep you from looking at what you really should be focusing on. So we'll cross that out. Look. And yo. Hold on. Let me read. Let me read this. It says, he said, go, make preparations for us to eat the Passover. Luke 22 and 8. And I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. Notice that he said he desired to eat this Passover before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat it again until it finds fulfillment in the kingdom of YAHUAH. Luke 22, 15 and 16. If you go and actually read that, right? Now, here is something. Now, I'm not sure if it was a typo or somebody just didn't catch it, or if it truly indeed was put there on purpose, right? If you go there and read, right? Matter of fact, let me pull it up so I can show you. And here's one of the things. Now, here's something that you will not catch if you do not keep the feast, right? And YAHUAH commanded us to keep the feast. If you don't keep the feast, you will not recognize this. And when I saw them, I'm like, wait, hold on.
That means that
They are. No, hold on.
You should definitely
What does it say? What Jeremiah? Luke
So that's
22.
what talking about the meat and the word.
Yeah, everybody know about the meat, Jeremiah. Everybody know about the meat. Luke 22. Hold on.
Even the lamb.
Jeremiah. Yes. Okay. Luke 22. Okay. You gotta go up a little bit. You gotta go up a little bit further, and you can also find it in Matthew. I wish I would have wrote this down, but anyway, what it tells you, it gives you the reference right here because they talk about it a couple times. But they tell you, he said, "I desire to eat Passover with you." They actually came to him when they was preparing for it. They said, they was like, "Well, Master, what we need to do?" And he was like, "Well, you go get the stuff prepared." But it tells you, guys, I gotta find it because it's gonna pluck my nerves. It tells you it was the first day. It said it was the first day of unleavened bread. And they were, I may not be able to pinpoint it here. Hold on, let me put, guys, it's gonna put my nerves. They said they were already in the feast of unleavened bread, right? And it says he wanted to eat the Passover lamb with them. But they were required, according to the Passover feast, they were required to do that before unleavened bread even started, right? So if you're already in the first day of Feast of Unleavened Bread, that means Passover and them actually eating the Passover meal would have been the night before. They were still, it said that they were still preparing to eat that meal, but it also identified that they were already inside of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, how does that make sense? My husband just pulled back up. I'm like, how does that make sense? I'm like, has anybody ever noticed this? I was like, I wonder if this is a typo. But I checked a couple different versions. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. I'll pull it up. I'm going to tell you exactly where it is so you can see it. So y'all know I ain't lying. Hold on. I need to go to one with like the sub titles of the chapter so I can pull it out. I'm going to give it to you right now. Hold on. Give me a second. So you can look at it. So there's different things throughout the New Testament whereby if you never pay attention to what Yahuwah said, you won't catch those little things. But if you're familiar with it, like, no, that ain't right. You know, no. It's like you saying, like, I'm the second born child. That's not right. Pam is the oldest child. Johnny and Pinky got 4 kids. Pam was born first. It's like one of those things like, duh, wait. What are you talking about? Like, you really must not know the family, do you? How? No, Pam is not the second born. Pam is the oldest. It's like one of those type of things that's obvious where you read, like, wait, what? Wait, hold on. Is this a typo? I think I found a typo in my... And it kind of like started off like that. I think I found a typo in the Bible. Till you start looking at all the other versions. And it's like, wait, did everybody make the same mistake? And then they repeat it again in another book of the gospel. I'm like, wait. Okay, so if they was keeping to the commands, how would they, if they said they were keeping to the commands, how could they mess that up? Like, nobody who's faithfully keeping the commands and actually observing the feast will ever get that out of order, right? So, hold on. Let's see. Let me go type in. Search it real quick so I can go back to it. Matthew. Right. Matthew chapter 26, 17. Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. Y'all write this down. Y'all can go pull it up right now. It's one of these type of things right here, right? Matthew chapter 26, verse 17. On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, right? We've identified we are officially inside of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? Which comes after Passover, right? We've identified that. Those who are familiar, we understand that, right? On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, the disciples, right? You done taught them how to, you supposedly had taught them how to keep these feasts, how to keep the commands of Yah, right? Your own disciples, you, oh great teacher, you have taught them, so they should know, right? On the first, matter of fact, let me blow this up. Let me blow this up. Hold on. I gotta blow it up a little bit. Hold on. And my mouse is acting weird, so okay. Now I blew it up. So I'm gonna show you something. Because he ain't correct them either. Okay. Matthew chapter 26, verse 17. And the subtitle is The Last Supper. So if you forget it, just remember the Last Supper. Go find the Last Supper. On the first day of the festival of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to prepare the Passover meal for you?" Now, the first time, after reading through the scriptures a couple of the Old Testament a couple times before I had actually started reading it like out loud with you guys like 3 years ago, I understood the order of events of the feast throughout the year. So when I came back and I read that later, I'm like, wait, that's out of order. That's how I started. I was like, wait, that's out of order. That's a typo. Then I started looking. I'm like, okay, wait. Did everybody make this mistake? Did they never catch it? So then you go back to earlier versions like the 16 nights, and I'm like, was this? I think this is purposely put in here. Okay, listen. On the first day of the festival of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to prepare the Passover meal for you?" And listen, he didn't correct him. Listen to what he said. He said, "As you go into the city," I'm like, wait, Master, wait. We were supposed to do that last night. "As you go into the city," he told them, "you will see a certain man. Tell him the teacher says, my time has come, and I will eat the Passover meal with my disciples at your house." So the disciples did as Jesus told them and prepared the Passover meal there. See, it's little things like that. When we don't pay attention, we don't even, it's almost like, I want to say, because I know who now authored the New Testament and all these things that kind of add me in, it almost seems like a mockery to me, right? It's because you got to remember, as we learn as they go through this, they didn't think that their literature would actually be canonized inside of what we now know today as the Bible. They did not think their story would last as long as it did. Never did they think in a million, they were doing it to, they were literally talking about their own lives and combining it. They were trying to make people believe that they were truly gods in the flesh, right? That they themselves, like their family, because they were in leadership and they were royalty, they were taking themselves, and even some of the names and stuff that they used, they kind of pulled from different books of, even some books that aren't canonized, they put in there, but they're referring to themselves. And if you understand who they use and what actually happened, some of the surrounding things and some of the miracles that they use, you can pinpoint the actual person in history that they borrowed some of that stuff from, right? And JC is actually, well, I'm not going to say the character in there, but some of the things that's in there, it's a combination of a few different events from a couple different people, but mainly Titus, right? And some of the things that was happening during his rule and reign. If you get familiar with that, you can kind of see that. It's like, wait a minute, wait a minute, right? So, but remember that book I was telling y'all about, Caesar's Messiah, that we came upon a few weeks ago? That has a lot of that information in there with the references. Like I said, I recently just found that book. Somebody actually sent me a video. They said, "Have you seen this?" And I started looking. I was like, oh, shoot. Which kind of verified and gave me more references than the stuff that I had already uncovered myself. So, but yeah, it's little things like that where it seems like it's like a complete mockery that they would put in there. Now, there's some good common sense wisdom that you will find in the New Testament. I'm not denying that at all, right? But there are some things in there that are it looks like direct mockeries. Bella, get in here. Oh, Jamal's out there. Direct mockeries against people who may not be paying attention. It's like they're trying to rub something in your face. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You can go out there. I didn't know Jamal was sitting out there. You can go. Go ahead. I thought you was going out there by yourself. Y'all hear her clacking around. My aunt just bought her this whole little her out. Josh, let her come back out. My aunt, she loves to play dress up. So my aunt bought her this thing with all these different types of girly shoes and stuff in it. And she didn't have, as soon as the box came in the house, I think she slept in them. Well, she didn't, but that's an exaggeration. She wanted to. I made her take all this stuff off. So, but that's the clicking and stuff, right? Eddie said, Shalom, Pamela. Then Yahuwah said that he will only protect his people that are in his land. 2nd Baruk 29:2. Yes, it does say that. Matter of fact, I got this right here. Let's go Baruk. Second Baruk. Hold on, y'all. I will read it out here. But also we know that all of those who keep Yahuwah's commands, he also keeps us where we're scattered as well, right? So that's why hold on, I gotta find Baruk in here. That's why even like a lot of times, like when we actually really understand, like even in our ignorance, there is grace there for our ignorance of what we don't quite understand, because we were born into lies, into deception. I think there's a lot of grace there for us, but we can see a lot of other things happening for us. Hold on, y'all. I actually got to go to the table of contents to find Baruk in here.
Mom, they want to come out.
Okay, 2nd Baruk, page 948.
Done.
Look, I put my finger in the and put it right on page 948. Okay, 2nd Baruk 29. Let's see. 29. I got it highlighted. Look. For at that time I will protect only those who are found in those self-same days in this land. So let me go back up. I'll read it. You have to, Eddie, when you read that, make sure you're keeping it in context, because it's talking about, y'all, this is so good. Baruk is a really good book to read. Both of them is really good to read, so you will see where a lot of revelation has been taken from, right? So if you read in there the different plagues and the vows that are being poured out, Baruk will give you way more details of stuff that's going to happen. And when you have a lot of this stuff and you keep it in context with some of the catastrophes that's like happening now, where it seems like it doesn't necessarily fall within the lines of the plagues of what we've seen the first time, because there are going to be more, right? But if you go back up to chapter 27 in 2nd Baruk, hold on. In 2nd Baruk, chapter 27, it starts going through what's going to happen during those times of tribulation. Actually, you can go back a little bit further, but look, I got it highlighted, and I have right here, so over here, and this is verse 2, 2nd Baruk, chapter 29, verse 2. I got that highlighted. So yeah, you are absolutely correct, Eddie, in what you said. That is exactly what he said, and he was saying that during those times, that those who are found in the land, they would be the only ones. It's almost like well, I guess I can kind of use that as an example. So if during a certain time, if Yahuwah said, okay, this is a place you need to be by this time, because if you're not here, I can't, not that he can't guarantee your safety, but it's like you knew ahead of time, you got time to get there. I'm not obliged to keep you safe. If you get caught up in all this stuff over here, because I'm telling you now, it's going to be complete chaos and it's going to be extremely hard. Don't be found there during this time. Hence, when you read in Revelation, it tells you to flee Babylon, come out of her, my people, so you do not take part in her destruction. It's the same thing. So that's what we're kind of looking for. We're on a lookout for. It's like, okay, where is the land? Clearly, we know we're going to need to be there. We're going to get back. The nation's going to help us get there. And so you kind of going through all these things. And as we're waking up, it's like we're fumbling, trying to find our way through the dark to make sure, because we can see things happening clearly that he said is going to happen. It's like, okay, where do we need to go? Do we just need to stay here and hunker down? Do we just need to stay here because we can't get out the country. You got to have this and you got to have that. They're making it hard to move around. What do we do? And if we know this is not the land, or is there going to be like a set aside Goshen, you going to help us? It's like all of these things begin to run through your mind, and rightfully so, right? It's like, y'all, you got to throw us a bone here. Let us know. But yeah, you're right. Let me read some of the things that it says about that. Okay, let me read this. Chapter 27. And they're like really short chapters in Baruk. Like you can, guys, you probably could read through Baruk. They're really, really short chapters. It's a total of 87 chapters in second Baruk, but they're like really short. So here are some of the things that is in here, which is going to happen. Let me read 26. Chapter 26 is literally one verse, right? It says, "And I answered and said, will that tribulation which is to be continue a long time, and will that necessity embrace many years?" So you can clearly tell before it's talking about some of the tribulations that's going to come at the end of the reign of Esau and in the latter days, right? And the end of the Roman kingdom, right? Which is, it makes sense why they wouldn't canonize it and why they added it in and then they took it out in some places, because now it's well known, hey, it's not hidden anymore. Might as well go and add it back to some of the Bibles. They know most people is really not going to go read it either, right? So it's like you can put the truth there in plain sight, and most people won't even read it because you brainwashed them long enough where they were like, oh, it's uninspired, we don't touch that. That's heresy, right? And so, but when you go back and look at it, it starts to pull you in like, wait a minute. Okay, so right here, chapter 27, it says, "And he answered and said unto me, into 12 parts is that time divided. Each one of them is reserved for that which it is appointed for." And it's talking about the tribulations and the things that's going to happen during that period, right? And he said it's broken down into 12 sections or 12 portions of time. And some of them will be back to back, and some of them, as it ramps up, they will begin to overlap. The destructions will begin to overlap one another. So when you read this from here and you look at worldwide, if you look at the news channels, at least some of the news channels that give you real information, and also some of the real-time events when people uploading stuff from YouTube, putting all that stuff together, you can see the stuff happening all over the world, right? And these will be worldwide events. Listen. He said, "In the first part, there shall be the beginning of commotions. In the second part, there shall be slaying of the great ones. In the third part, the fall of many by death. And in the fourth part, the sending of the sword. And the fifth part, famine and withholding of rain. And in the sixth part, earthquakes and terrors." Number 8, it just says wanting, right? And it's like, wanting, what does that mean? Like wanting in everything. In the 8th part, a multitude of specters and attacks of the Shadim. And the Shadim is devils. And we can see that, right? It says the 8th part, a multitude of specters and attacks of the demons or devils. The 9th part, the fall of fire. In the 10th part, rapine and much oppression. In the 11th part, wickedness and unchastity. In the 12th part, confusion from the mingling together of all those things aforesaid. And these parts of that time are reserved and shall be mingled with one another and minister to one another. Saying they're going to happen in succession, and then they're going to all be, it's like they're not going to stop happening. As they begin to start, it will keep on going as the next one falls into place. So it says the mingling and the meshing together of all of these together. So imagine you got all these things going on all over the world. We can clearly see all of these things are happening even today. "For all these parts of that time are reserved and shall be mingled one with another and minister one to another. For some shall leave out of their own and receive in its own stead from others, and some complete their own and that of others, so that those may not understand who are upon the earth in those days that this is the consummation of times," right? So we can clearly see that this is the consummation of time. And all these things have been happening over the course of time, the last few hundred years. You know, clearly, as long as we've been alive, all of these things have been going on, right? But it also talks about, if you read the Apocalypse of Abraham, it gives some more terrors that line up with these, but a little bit deeper, which we can see those going on as well. But it also talks about where it says the animals will be their graves, right? So I'm even looking to see more animal attacks according to that, more animal attacks will begin to happen, and they will begin to, we're going to see a lot of people dying by animal attacks, right? So well, I be thinking about that. I'm like, I know we're upon this time, because we got memberships to the zoo, right? And I just started watching this series on Netflix called Zoo, and it's that very thing. When I saw it said zoo. I'm like, let me read what this is about. As soon as I read it, I'm like, clearly, they took this right out the scriptures, because the movie Zoo is talking about, look, where does it, it's happening all over, where it said the animals all over the world begin to go crazy, but they focus, like the center of it beginning to happen right in Africa with the lions, right? They just all start wigging out, the animals everywhere, and it kind of begins to like spread out. Right, and the animals are becoming the graves of a whole lot of people upon the earth. So I just started watching it yesterday. I'm like, I wonder who made this. I can clearly see that it was taken from what I know to be like in Apocrypha and some of the other tribulation chapters and stuff like that. But it's crazy. Y'all should go watch it if you get a chance, if you watch series or whatever. But I didn't even know that was there. I was just kind of flipping. We were trying to find something to watch, and I came across it. I'm like, oh. Like I think I watched 3 of them yesterday. Fell asleep watching it. It's good. So, just in case. But yes, we got to talking about that with Eddie's comment where he said, then YAHUAH said that he will only protect his people that are in his land. Yeah. So, with that being said, it's like, because we're still kind of scattered as well, it's like all these things happening. And because we can't really move. Some who can move, if they have enough money to move, they can move. But a lot of our people can't, simply because of the state of our oppression that we've been in. And you see what I'm saying? A lot of us, even if we wanted to, we couldn't. And still, although we know the area where our land is where I would say we have a good idea. There's a few different theories, like 3 theories clearly that are out there that I know. I say 4. There are like 4 theories where the land could possibly be, right? But if we kind of look at all the information that's available, we can kind of move some of those out of the way, and we can narrow it down to like at least 1 place, or maybe 2 places. It just depends on how far up or how far down, right, you go. But we clearly know, okay, our land is clearly surrounded by some of these other nations. Our land has animals that it talks about that are indigenous there that we don't see here, because I saw I saw a few good arguments on that. Well, the Americas is our land, right? And so I started looking. I was like, oh, it drew me in for a little. I was like, oh, that's good. But then I started thinking. I was like, wait a minute. Where are the animals that are indigenous to our land? I'm like, would they have moved an entire continent of animals? Like, I mean, I guess they could have done it over the course of time. But even if they were able to move all the animals out and only kept a few reserved and put them in places in captivity and call them zoos, even if they did that, where are the surrounding nations that are clearly there? With some of the lands you can clearly like walk into, like you don't have to pass over water to get into some of those nations. Where are they at, right? And so all those things I had, so I'm like, okay, so I don't think this is quite right, because there is some certain key elements that are missing where it identifies to me, and like I said, up until this day, it identifies to me that the Americas is not. It's not. It's some like I said, the evidence. Some of the evidence is kind of compelling until you begin to, like I said, add in some of those other missing elements or elements that you might not be looking at. So as I began to look at that, I crossed the Americas off my list. Right. More so, our land is in Africa. Now, we don't know if it's Upper Africa or Lower Africa, because the maps we see, they have been flipped upside down and they're inverted. Some places are made to look bigger than what they really are. Names have been changed, like all of these things. So we still like fumbling our way throughout the dark. And I'm sure all the information is there, but you know how it's like, it's YAHUAH who's leading and guiding us, but it's certain things. You know how you can't understand this one thing until you first understand this? So he doesn't like drop information on you that's going to be useless to you. Now, information that he does drop on you that may be useless to you at that point, you're going to need it soon to help something else click. So he takes you through the process whereby when you need that piece of information, you already got it. And by the time you get here, it's going to trigger this, boom. Oh, so this is, it. So he does it in order. It's like the scavenger hunt, but there is a process that you have to follow in order to get it and pick up all the pieces as you go, so you're not missing anything. So that's why I think it's going to take the whole of us. There are some of us who study like the DNA, and some of us are geographical experts and land. And so it's going to take the whole of us coming together, bringing their missing pieces of the puzzle together and putting them together. What we still find out is happening among our people. Everybody's still trying to be separate. Or I got the information. This is all it right here. And I I ain't sharing it with you. You got to pay for it. I'm like, come on, everybody. It's like being you guys, excuse me. You guys ever been in an escape room? This is one big escape room that we're trying to get out of, and we're trying to get the people to work together. Y'all, everybody got different pieces. Or if you ever watched that series I just started watching like a few days ago, it's called Manifest, right? And so everybody get these callings or these premonitions since they got back from this flight, which when they got back, it was only an hour later from the destined time that they were supposed to get back. But it seems like they went through some kind of wormhole, and when they arrived back, it was 5.5 years later, right? It only had been an hour for them, but it was 5.5 years later from the rest of the world. And all the ones who had been through this, now they're having these premonitions, what they call them callings, but they all have to work together to figure it out, like what's going on, right? And so it's crazy. It's like that, right? It's like we're the ones, those of us who are waking up to what's really going on. It's like we're the ones who have went through this wormhole. And it's like, wait a minute, what is going on? We've slept through 5.5 years, or we've slept through 400 plus years, and we're trying to put the pieces together on what's happening, right? So it's like that. We really have to all come together, because everything is literally there. We just got to put them together. And once we get the puzzle together, we can see exactly what it is we need to do. We can kind of just get moving. But right now, we're kind of moving. I say we still moving at a snail's pace, because look, you acting crazy over there. We can't move till she bring her piece over here, because we can't even get to this part, because her piece has the bridge that we all need to cross. So if she don't bring her piece and put it over here, none of us can cross this bridge. And we all standing around twiddling our thumbs, wondering what's going to happen. Things are getting worse. We should have been gone. What is happening? She's still acting a fool because she mad with such and such because they wouldn't let her speak first. Like, you see what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. It's like we're all trapped in this escape room. Everybody, we waking up like, wait, what is the deal? How long have we been here? We should have been out. Why is this still happening? Okay, we clearly can see these things happening that YAHUAH said is going to be happening, but we still here. So what's the real deal? What we need to do, right? So it's that type of thing, y'all. So hopefully everybody begin to bring their pieces together. Everybody quit being thick-headed and arguing about things that don't even matter. We being fooled with people, Jedi mind tricks and stuff, and we looking at our attention is diverted from what it should really be. So with that being said, y'all's getting loud in my background. Hey, Eddie, you took me off my train. No, I'm just joking. But I think it was a good side note to go to that way, just in case if you were wondering about some things you haven't seen. You can go pull it up. So like I said, Baruk is a really good book to go look at, especially if you're big on prophecy, on trying to figure different things out. go read the first and second books of Baruk, right? And especially if you're really familiar with Revelation, because Revelation used to be one of my books too, just like Daniel was. I was in Revelation just as much as I was in Daniel, and I can almost recite them. You know, I can tell you, oh, this is here, boom, 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 this, that, yeah, you know. So when I found Baruk, it was amazing, and some of the other ones, and I was like, wait a minute, all of Revelation pulled from here? So it's more pieces. It's more pieces of the puzzle. Thank you. It's more pieces of the puzzle that'll help us see our way clearly, guys. I gotta go ahead and end this because my attention is diverted now. All right, y'all. So we'll pick up. Oh, I gotta make my mark. Okay, so we'll come back right here. 148. All right, y'all. So we won't be back here until Saturday, and my background gonna probably be different. Cause me and the hubby, it's getting away this weekend. So I promise y'all, I'ma still be on time in the morning, right? I'ma still get up. We're gonna be gone. I'ma still get up. So when you see the different background, it's our weekend away. So, but we won't be here tomorrow because it's the Sabbath for this moon cycle. We'll be back here Saturday morning, and we'll pick up where we left off at. So guys, it is June the 17th, 2021, day 183 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 852. Remember that is without the Sabbath days added into the count because we rest on those days. We read the additions to Esther, which is found in the Apocrypha, chapter 10, 11, and 12. And we read Fossilized Customs, page 144 through 148. And I also put the little side things where we read in Matthew, just in case you come back looking for, I think it was Matthew 27, 26? And also second Baruk, right? I'll put this in here. Just in case you come looking for this again. So I'll have those added in there. Okay, as Titus said, one thing I do believe is that corn was discovered in America and taken back to the fake Israel area in 1504, but the Bible and Exodus always had corn. You're absolutely right. So that's the corn or the maize that they had. There is somebody, I forget his name. It starts with a K, right? But he does, or here's what I do. I'll put that in here because the corn was something that caught my attention. Go ahead, Sudie. The maize. Hold on, y'all. Chill. The corn. That's corn is really like there here. I can tell you here, even in Virginia, corn grows extremely well here, right? So, guys, chill. I'm still live. So that was one of the things because I live here in Virginia, so that kind of caught my attention because he's of the mindset that the land of Israel is all of the lands are comprised and spread through like North America and South America, and more so a lot of South America. So with a lot of the research and stuff they had, I'm not saying go there, y'all, and look at it and get sidetracked and change your theory on where everything is at, but at least you know the information is out there and compare it, right? And maybe you guys will see something that I haven't quite seen, and we can kind of just like compare together, like, because we all still trying to figure it out. But they have some really good compelling evidence on some of the things that grow real good. But yeah, definitely corn, I want to say it definitely is indigenous here, right? And it thrives here. So yeah, I do think they kind of they took some of it and they took the seeds back there and they started growing it there, so there's a really, like I said, he does a lot of really good research and has references and stuff on that. But the people here that are indigenous to this land, who are also people of color, what I believe, and we talked about this before, the people that are here, there are a lot of our people here, at least from the 10 tribes who were scattered here first, right? Remember when they were scattered by Assyria? That's how they got here. So they have been here an extremely long time, way past the 400 years. They've been here over like 2,000 years, right? According to what I know. Close it, y'all. Close it. Thank you. But they've been here so long and they've intermingled with the indigenous people of this land, and they kind of, I ain't gonna say that they blacked them out, but they were already people of color, maybe of a lighter hue, so to speak, but there were also some darker Native Americans, or those who were native to this land, or the indigenous Niji of this land. They just intermingled with them, because if you find some of the actual indigenous people from here, they will tell you that they actually had Negro slaves. Like, the Negroes were their slaves, but the Negroes actually began to intermingle. They began to marry some of the indigenous people of this land, and they began to kind of like actually inherit the lands and stuff. And as they began to reproduce, just swipe it in your hands and put it in the sink. They just kind of forgot through the years that you weren't actually the people here. You were slaves here, right? You just kind of married into the family over here, the people. And up until this point, they believe that they are the indigenous of this land. Now, for a period of time, I was like, well, wait a minute. That might freaking be true. Until I started getting my DNA test, right? Because it looked like my family was indigenous to these lands until the different tests that I began to get back. I would say not my entire family. I would say at least through my father's blood. Like, from the blood compared here, stop it. The blood compared to the indigenous people of these lands here that are native here, we don't have a single drop of that type of blood in our DNA. And that right there is what halted me on my beliefs that this is, I'm not saying all colored people don't belong here, but there's a portion of people whose blood does not come or does not mesh with all the people whose blood is found here. Their blood is not found here. So I was like, wait a minute. So when I found out, I was like, wait, let me go compare this with my other test. And my other test said the same thing. And it was then I began to really understand a little bit more about DNA and some of the markers and stuff. I was like, oh, shoot, wait a minute. Where do I really come from? Where are we from? But I'm still kind of at a standstill, y'all, because my father, him and his sister, they're not the only children because there's two of them, but there is a cutoff. I can't really, at this point, as of today, I'm at a halt with researching my father's bloodline because his mom died when they were little kids, and they lived with their grandmother, which is my great grandma, and they've only seen their father a couple times. They know of the family, but the one person that my aunt kept up with, she's passed away now. And so we've been looking, I've been searching, I'm like, clearly somebody on Facebook. So all the things that I know about my father's side of the family, I'm searching and looking out, but I'm still at a standstill, so I still can't, certain that I can go back. Because I was able to pull up his dad. I found his dad. I found his mom. I was able to pull up their blood. But past, I would say, their great-grandparents, I'm like at a standstill, trying to make connections with bigger things, trying to say, okay, where, right? Because according to our blood, where are we from, right? So that's that. But I clearly know that what I'm saying is that right there leads me to believe, and I know that it's not the indigenous Niji of this land of the Americas. So that's as far as I know and understand about that, So looking at those with the blood from the Americas, looking at their skin tone, there's a mix of black, white, Hispanic type people, all of that are here. And I've looked at a lot of them from all the research, and even some personal people that I know, like, can I see you mind if I take a look at it? And I'm just kind of like comparing. I'm like, this is interesting, so I'm still learning day by day. So yeah, that kind of sparked off Titus' comment. So about the corn. So I'll put those videos in there if you're interested in looking at it, Yeah, definitely, Eddie. I think it's good. Some people don't trust it or whatever. I ain't gonna say you need to trust it 100%, but there is something to DNA if you can identify who your father is through paternity tests and stuff. So it has credibility in a lot of different ways. That's why I took a few different ones so I can compare the results just to see, okay, if somebody line is one completely off from the other. But they are all really, really similar. And the one that's most detailed is the one from African ancestry that points our DNA back to the African continent, like the Sierra Leone place in Liberia and Guinea-Bissau. Like, because remember, before those borders were set in with the different countries or states, the borderlines of the different countries from country to country, it was a bigger landmass. They didn't get those borders and separations that are chopped up like it is until the Berlin Conference, right? And they began changing names and stuff. So all of my people who a lot of my blood family, according to my DNA, is tracked to that region. And I didn't understand that at first. I'm like, wait, I come from 3 different places. And that's when I began to understand that African ancestry actually gives you a breakdown. They teach you about the borders that weren't necessarily there many years ago. So they said that if you find that you have blood and it's like, mine is like 100% in all 3 places. I'm like, how can it be 100% in all 3 places? Like, that's off. Until they begin to break it down. They said because it looks like 3 places according to today's map, but before that was all one landmass. There were no borders. So like Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, it wasn't those 3 places. They were one place without borders. That was all one land mass there without the border. So like my family is like that area right there. So I'm like, oh, that makes sense, So I'm learning day by day more information as I do my research and everything. So some things it's like the pieces of the puzzle coming together, making more sense, right? So all right, y'all, that's enough for today. So hopefully that was helpful in some kind of way. I know we done took a couple different trails today, y'all. I'm sorry, trying to stay focused. Let's go ahead and do this blessing. I know some people got to get out of here and go to work. I'm sorry, y'all. So the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. Man or woman can take it. And YAHUAH spake unto Moses, saying, wait a minute, Bella, wait a minute. Wait. Okay, just hold on to it. Let me get through it. And YAHUAH spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, on this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, may YAHUAH bless us and keep us. May YAHUAH make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May YAHUAH lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. Give me a few minutes and I get all this stuff added up there for y'all to see if y'all want to go look. Oh, no worries, Eddie. He said I apologize for taking you off track. No worries. I actually enjoy some of these side roads because it helps as we read through it actually helps us with our understanding, especially if we can kind of look at it where things are in today, in where it is today. Because a lot of time when you read from the scripture, it's talking about like pre-borders and all the things that were before they started changing all the names. So if we kind of talk about today's stuff and how it looks from our perspective, we can kind of begin to place some of those things. So I hope it helps in some kind of way. Don't apologize for taking me off. If I get off, if I respond to your comment and it seems like we're going off, it means it's on purpose. I want to share something with you. So no worries, no apologies. All right, y'all. Love y'all, and I will see y'all Saturday morning, bright and early, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go ahead. You want to say peace? All right, go ahead and say peace. All right, y'all. Peace.